Hello and welcome. Before we talk about this week's episode of The Mandalorian, I'd like to give a special thanks to user John DeMarco, who several episodes ago, from episode 2, he pointed out that the Ugnaught creature was not just a random joke name, but it was actually the name of the creatures in The Empire Strikes Back who were trying to melt down C-3PO. So I never would have gotten that because you never hear their name in The Empire Strikes Back, but that's apparently their name, and so John DeMarco, thank you so much for pointing that out. And sorry it took me a couple weeks to remember to actually say thank you. So let's talk about Season 1, Chapter 6, The Prisoner of the Mandalorian. As always, if you don't want the episode completely spoiled, skip to this timestamp right around there. Again, it's going to be this timestamp right around there. For everyone else, let's talk about this. The episode starts off with Avery landing his ship aboard another vessel or space station. He walks through the mechanics by himself, having again abandoned Theo, until he meets up with an old friend named Ran. Ran is surprised that Avery reached out to him after hearing things with the guild weren't working out. Avery is here to help Ran with a job to spring one of Ran's associates out of jail, but is upset when he finds out that the reason Ran wanted him in the first place was for his ship. Ran shrugs off Avery's glare, though, and makes a joke about not being able to tell what kind of look Avery is giving him, but he's pretty sure it's gratitude. Rand takes Avery and introduces us to Mayfield. He's going to be the team leader. He used to be an Imperial sharpshooter. Avery makes a joke about that not saying much, and Mayfield gets offended, saying he wasn't a stormtrooper. They wander over to look at Avery's ship, and Mayfield remarks that he can't believe it actually flies. It looks like a Canto Bight slot machine. Mayfield then introduces the rest of the team. There's the big tough guy with horns named Berg. 10 credits on him, also lacking in the intelligence. There's Zero, a droid, probably going to be the one working computers on the job, and Xian, a possible ex-lover of Avery who likes knives. At the very least, she had a thing for Avery, even if it wasn't a mutual affection. 10 more credits that she does something weird with her tongue at some point in this episode. And you know what? Those are boring names, so I'm going to name them Hellboy, Mantis, and I swear I'm not Chiana from Farscape. After the opening title, we see Mantis going through a pre-flight checklist and stumbles across the last transmission from the guild leader. Despite it being garbled, we can hear him mentioning Theo, and Mantis is intrigued. We're then given the explanation of the heist portion of the show, and find out that the associate wasn't just captured by a rival syndicate, but arrested by the legitimate ruling government of the New Republic. We're told that Mantis will be the one flying the ship, something Avery doesn't like, but goes along with for now. On Avery's ship, we get to see not Chiana balancing a CGI knife on her fingertips, while Hellboy paces and Mantis interfaces with the ship to calculate their hyperspace route. Hellboy gets into a staring match with Avery's helmet, sparking a conversation about how if the Mandalorians are such amazing warriors, then why are they all dead? Not Chiana comments that they never take off the helmet, and Mayfield tries to goad Avery into taking off his helmet. When Avery refuses, Hellboy tries to take the helmet off for him. After a brief scuffle, Avery knocks Hellboy into a control panel, opening a cabinet and revealing Theo. Holy crap, I forgot Theo was even in this thing. Everyone is surprised to see it, and Avery claims it's something like a pet. Mayfield picks up Theo and says while he never could get into the idea of pets, maybe he should try again with Theo. Just then, Mantis drops him out of hyperspace, and during a series of rapid maneuvers, Theo ends up being dropped on the floor where Avery quickly picks him up and then puts him back in the cabinet. As Avery opens the airlock, Chiana whispers something into Mayfield's ear as Hellboy sinisterly chuckles. The heist begins properly. Everything is going smoothly until Hellboy shoots what looks like one of the Imperial repair droids, alerting the other droids on the ship to their presence. While the team is pinned down, Avery manages to circle around them and make short work of the droids. Entering the control room, they're able to find out which cell their associate's in, but hit a small hiccup. The ship was supposed to be manned entirely by droids, but there's a human in the control room. Even though he's scared, he tries to hold them at gunpoint, an action that no one really cares about until he pulls out a tracking beacon. With one press, it will have a Republic attack team swarming their position. A Mexican standoff occurs with Avery not wanting to kill the guy, and him, Hellboy, and Mayfield all pointing their guns at each other. Chiana brings a swift end to the standoff, killing the guard and doing a weird tongue thing. That was an easy 10 credits. Unfortunately, as the guard died, he pressed the button, and now they only have 20 minutes to get their associate and escape. Opening the prison door reveals Quinn, the brother of Chiana. Apparently, Quinn holds Avery responsible for being in the prison in the first place. But before we can hear more about that, what's this? Dishonor among thieves? Hellboy shoves Avery into the cell, and Mayfield locks him in. Curse your sudden but inevitable betrayal! Left alone on the ship, we see that Mantis has repaired the message from the guild leader. Avery manages to overpower a droid, rip its arm off, and then use the interface tool to open the cell door. After escaping, Avery makes his way to the control room, locks down the ship, separating Nachiana and Hellboy from Quinn and Mayfield, while at the same time kicking Mantis out of the system. Just then, Theo pops up behind Mantis. Freaking Theo, always popping up at the most inconvenient moment. With no way to get to Nachiana and Hellboy, Quinn decides to ditch his sister and have Mayfield get him off the prison ship. Nachiana and Hellboy split up and try to track down Avery and find a way to undo the lockdown. And Mantis and Theo play a rousing game of hide and seek. The first one to find Avery is Hellboy. Avery tries to use his flamethrower on him, but as everyone knows, Hellboy's immune to fire, so Avery uses a door to crush him. Man, the doors in the Star Wars universe really need some kind of safety mechanism to stop closing if someone is stuck between them. Next to find Avery is Nachiana. They have a brief knife fight, and she manages to graze Avery before he manages to get a knife to her throat. Avery gets the drop on Mayfield, and he doesn't even get a chance to shoot before Avery takes him down. Avery stops Quinn as he's about to board the ship, and when asked if Avery killed the others, he tells them that they got what they deserved, so I'm guessing no one is actually dead yet. Not sure how Hellboy survived, but I'm sure we'll yada yada past that. Quinn surrenders himself to Avery, saying that Avery was hired to do a job, so hurry up and finish it. After all, isn't Avery a man of honor? Mantis finally ends the game of hide and seek with Theo. We see Theo looking like he's trying to use the Force as Mantis takes aim at him. Suddenly there's a blaster shot, and we find that it wasn't Theo using the Force, but obviously Avery behind the droid. Avery departs the prisoner ship, returning to Rand's station with Quinn, where he gets paid and departs. Rand then issues an order to have Avery killed, and Quinn finds the tracking beacon from the prisoner ship tucked into his belt. 3 New Republic X-Wings warp in and begin attacking the station as Avery warps out. Avery gives Theo the top of the gear shift lever, despite it being a major choking hazard, and tells Theo, "I told you that this job would be a bad idea," as the scene transitions back to the prison ship, showing Hellboy, Mayfield, and totally not Chiana locked up in a cell. Okay, that wraps up the complete spoiler section of this video. Let's talk about the bad things that were in this video. First off, when being introduced to one of the characters, we get a funny meta moment where he's identified as an Imperial sharpshooter, and then gets offended when Avery says, "Well, no, that's not saying much." And he responds with, "I wasn't a stormtrooper." While it got a quick smirk from me, it really annoyed me after a second. In Star Wars, we're told what excellent marksmen the stormtroopers are by Obi-Wan. The fact that they always miss the main characters is only relevant on a meta level. Having a character acknowledge this was a big fourth wall breaking moment to me. As far as the rest of the in-canon galaxy universe is concerned, stormtroopers are amazing shots, and someone who is considered to be a sharpshooter, even amongst the stormtroopers, should be an extremely good shot. I also dislike the scene as the offended character swears. While I personally don't like swearing in general, hearing it in Star Wars just really grates on my nerves. Swearing has no place in the cinematic Star Wars universe. Yes, it's in the books, yes, it's in the game, yes, it's in the comics. Those are separate from the cinematic universe. Every time I hear it in the cinematic universe, I think it was such a dumb choice. It just doesn't belong there. It was dumb when Poe and Finn did it in The Last Jedi, and it's dumb now. Another thing I didn't like about this episode was one of the characters we're introduced to for this heist episode is a woman named Xian. I hate her. From the moment she came on screen, I hated her. She's introduced with some high-pitched quick strokes of a violin to let us know that she's crazy sauce. Now, in her defense, the actress playing her goes all out into this role. My only issue is that the crazy alien woman who tries to move seductively and laughs with their mouth open while some jungle beat music is going on in the background is an oddly specific yet entirely overused stereotype in sci-fi adventures. At one point, we see a droid I've named Mantis bragging that he is quicker and smarter than organics. And while he's talking, he actually flips off Avery. Like, it wasn't just a random hand motion. He was bragging and he flips off Avery. He gives him the bird. It's like they only know how to show that people in this episode are bad by having them be crazy and swear. It's a one-dimensional look at bad guys, and well, I guess it works well enough for this boilerplate heist episode kind of format. I much prefer the way Nishka was written in Firefly. You knew that guy was evil, and he didn't have to twirl a mustache while swearing to get the point across. Also, in kind of this overall scene that's going on, you know, droids just have too much personality now. Like, I'm a fully sentient being levels of personality. Yes, C-3PO had a personality, but it was always something that you could chalk up to being part of his programming as a protocol droid. He had he had no way of truly interacting with people. Like, he couldn't ever read a room. He was always the awkward, just doing whatever the program told him to kind of person. Now, all the droids exhibit rational thought and practically show traits of free will, something that they double down in the book that I'll be reviewing in my next video, The Rise of the Resistance, the required reading for the Star Wars movie that comes out next week. I have no idea who thought that giving droids this kind of sentience level of personality was a good trait, but ever since that idiot droid in Solo, we've gotten way too much of this, and I'm just done with it. I'm done with the droids in Star Wars acting like another race of people, or another species of people in the Star Wars universe. Another bad thing was, at one point, Avery needs to get through a security door, and to do so, he shoots his lasso through some slits on the door. It was a bad moment for a couple reasons. First off, why do these high security doors even have slits that you could reach through? Until Avery shoots through it, I thought they were windows. But nope, turns out that anyone could reach through this high security door and fiddle with the controls if they had long enough arms. The second bad thing about this moment is that he lassos a droid and it reacts like a human. Like, it is a very bipedal droid, very humanish looking, except, it's a droid. So he's reacting like a human. It reaches for its neck as if the lacquer was choking it, and it flails about wildly, slamming on the door. When it's a robot, it wouldn't be doing any of these kind of reactions because it has no larynx to crush. Like, this is a totally stupid thing. Stop making droids people, Star Wars. They're just robots. If you want a person, then use a person for the character. Third, Avery actually manages to overpower and rip the robot's arm off. This is either the worst designed robot ever, or Avery is far stronger than the show has been giving him credit for. Fourth, after ripping the arm off, we get an absurd amount of blood just gushing out of the stump before Avery blows the robot's head off. Sorry, I meant oil. We get an absurd amount of oil gushing out, not blood. Good thing that was only a robot that had a vaguely humanoid shape and not an actual human, or else this scene would have never made it past the censors. Finally, to top off how dumb this scene was, Avery twists some bits on the back of the robot's arm that he ripped off, and you know what pops out? An interface tool, and somehow he's able to twist the interface tool around to unlock his cell door. This was so dumb. An interface tool, like we've seen coming out of R2-D2 so many times in the past, is obviously supposed to be like a USB port kind of thing, or an Ethernet port type of thing. It is a tool designed for droids to interface with the computer. It's software versus software. It's not supposed to be some sort of physical lock-picking device. I mean, R2-D2, when he interfaced with the door, he wasn't unlocking it or hacking the computer by twisting around to get access to things. That was just a visual thing done to show that he was actively communicating with the computer. In fact, at one point, I believe during Empire Strikes Back, R2-D2 makes a comment, told to us through C-3PO, about how sassy the computer is. Something like that. That's obviously not the exact words R2-D2 uses. But this is obviously a tool that they use to communicate directly with another computer. And the fact that they were using it as if it was a lockpick was such a dumb thing. And it's even more dumb because at the beginning of the episode, when they first break into the prison ship, you see that Avery uses a decryption device. Like, he pulls it out, it's a little square thing, and he plugs it into the prison ship, and he gets through the door that way. Why not have him use the tool again that we have already established can get through doors? The fact that he had to do this really weird Rambo thing where he can rip off the arm of a robot, it was just a dumb moment. So those were my bad things. That was the end of the bad things, and that last one was a doozy for me. But let me talk about my nitpicky things. It is 12 minutes into the show before we see Theo at all in this episode. When he finally shows up, my brain had to do a double take because I had actually forgotten that Theo is this incredibly important MacGuffin that has driven the entire plot for the first season. This is the first episode I watched where I felt like they were running out of ideas of how Avery could tuck him away for the plot to happen. And this is hardly something new. It happens a lot in shows. They'll introduce this concept of a character having to balance school and work, or work and a superhero life or something. And we'll get a couple of fun episodes where Barry Allen is always showing up late to the precinct, even though he's the fastest man alive, and he can't figure out how to balance work life and personal life and social life, and and all that fun stuff. But after a couple episodes, they just kind of drop the plot. In fact, after like a season, they just drop the idea that he has a job together until finally he quits or something. You know, I get tired of the way they kind of prop up an episode using a flimsy plot device like this. With The Mandalorian, they only need to stick to this plot episode or this plot device for 8 episodes. I think they could have done a better job than just having Avery abandon him at the start of each episode, or not even show him for almost a third of the episode's runtime, to the point where I forgot all about him. Like they could have done a better job incorporating him into the show. One of my other nitpicks is as they enter the New Republic ship where the heist is taking place, everything is white with pronounced angles, and the droids are black and shiny. This doesn't give me the feeling of being a Republic ship, which it's supposed to be. It is a New Republic prison ship. This looks like a ship from the Empire. Maybe I missed a line at some point about it being an Imperial ship that the Republic's now using. But otherwise, I feel like the show is just trying to trick our brains. Like, for 8 movies now, we have had the white, sterile, very technological people be the bad guys. And I kind of felt like that's what they were trying to do in this episode, where we're supposed to be rooting for Avery and his team. So they said, you know what? We're just going to use the Empire look to say, oh, this is the bad guys, because black droids equals bad droids. So I get the feeling they just defaulted to the look and feel of the ship, and droids being to what we associate with the enemies from the movies, and it doesn't fit the Republic look. So a bit of a nitpicky thing, but something that really stood out to me, like from the moment they entered the New Republic ship. I'm like, what the heck is this? I thought they were on a Republic ship, not an Imperial ship. In fact, I honestly thought that there was going to be a twist that this was an Imperial prison transport. But nope, it's a Republic. They even have one of the guys with the shell dome heads guarding the control room at one point. So at another point, this is another nitpicky thing, I'll be honest, but at one point, Avery is fighting the muscle of the heist group. Because that's what this episode is. It's a heist episode. And Avery is losing really bad to the muscle, which it would make sense, except earlier in the episode, they had a bit of a throwdown between Avery and the muscle, and Avery won easily, like with no problem whatsoever. And I think it came off feeling like the only reason they had Avery win the first time was because they wanted to reveal Theo to you. And they couldn't come up with a way to have, say, one of the other characters do that, like any other character, a weak character. But instead they used the muscle for some reason. Except having shown that Avery can easily handle the muscle, now they're doing a 180 and being like, well, now the muscle's too strong for Avery. He's beating him around. So it really makes it... They should have done a better job. They should have had Avery lose in the beginning, or have the muscle not win so readily this time round. But the fact that they had him win easily and then lose so handedly, it was a bad writing moment and a nitpicky moment for me. There is a scene later on where the New Republic shows up and starts opening fire at a station after tracking a signal that one of their people activated. Why would they do this? They give some comment about, oh, it looks like they're about to launch a gunship, but they immediately destroy that gunship and then continue their attack. It made for a nice comeuppance moment in the episode, but if I was the person in the X-Wing, I would assume the person who activated the tracker was one of my own people, because that's what it was there for. It was an emergency call, help me out beacon. And so as far as I know, my own people are on the station. So why am I shooting at the station that I believe my people are on? Like, and why were the New Republic X-Wing fighters so trigger happy? That made no sense. They didn't even make an attempt to communicate to the people. This isn't the Empire. It's supposed to be the Republic. So why are they acting this way? That's my nitpicky things. My nitpicky. Let's talk about the neutral moments for me. I really only had one big neutral moment in this episode. And that was we get more references back to other Star Wars movies. The first one that I noticed was a comment about Avery's ship looking as reliable as a Cantobite slot machine. While I would prefer that they tone down the references in general, like especially these overt references, I'm enjoying the kind of background stuff where if you're paying attention, you'll notice, like I mentioned a couple episodes ago, that they had the metal brace that they used in Star Wars to stop the trash compactor. You know, it came in an episode where there's a lot of references anyway, so I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. But that kind of references, they're Easter eggs, and they're not too bad. They're kind of fun member berries. But to beat you over the head with a reference, I really wish they just start toning that down. And honestly, I think the best thing Lucasfilm could do at this point would be to pretend that The Last Jedi never happened. Just don't mention it anymore. Don't reference it. Don't make acknowledgments to things that it introduced, like Fuel and Candlebright. Just let it be the Atari ET moment of your franchise, and bury that in a landfill in New Mexico. The people who like The Last Jedi, they're not going to notice that you're not mentioning it. They're going to notice all the other things that you are mentioning from Star Wars, and they'll be happy. The people who don't like Last Jedi, we're going to be happy that you never bring it up again. So it's a win-win situation, a win-win-win even. And I highly wish that Lucasfilm would just drop any more references to The Last Jedi. So that's my bad, my nitpicky, and my neutral things. Let's talk about the good things in this episode. I like the initial impression I had of Rand. He's known Avery for what seems to be a long time. He's obviously not a good person, but I like the way he didn't back down to Avery. Instead, he made a joke about not being able to tell what kind of look he was getting through the helmet. I've said this before in the past, but the show is doing a great job with the background music and the framing of the shots so that we always know what Avery is feeling, even though we can't see his face. And that's a hard thing to do, because in filmography, we do convey a lot of what someone is feeling based on, obviously, the look of their expression. And we can do a lot of techniques to, you come in at a certain angle, you have the lighting. Lighting plays a big role to how your mind subconsciously processes what someone seems to be feeling, especially in cinema. But there's so much you do with a person's face. The fact that they have done such a good job to convey what Avery is feeling, even though we can't see his face at all, is a testament to the people directing, editing, just all the little bits that go into creating The Mandalorian. They are doing a great job, and I cannot do anything but give them mad props for conveying Avery's emotions without ever letting us see his face. Well done, guys. Another good thing I'm really enjoying is that I really, really, really love how Avery is not treated as an all-powerful being in the series. He's a bounty hunter who's been making his name known for some time. He's known to the point where people are certainly aware of him, but not everyone knows him and fears him. And he's very much a human character. He has flaws, he struggles. This episode, we really got to see more of the awesomeness of him. We got to see more of, hey, he is a highly accomplished bounty hunter, and when paired up against normal people, you get to see him shine. And so that was a nice moment for the episode, but it felt natural. It didn't feel overpowered. And so they did a really good job with that. Really liking how they're treating Avery in general. This is a heist episode, and as the heist is being explained, we get to see how they plan to hyperspace in and get close to this prison ship. And we get a great moment where we see that they're looking at space from a three-dimensional view. It's just not, we're going to come in and we're going to zigzag and boom, we're there. No, they're coming in, they're going up, they're dipping down, they're going that way, and they're docking in. So they're doing this complex series of maneuvers to get past the sensor grid of the ship. And I loved it. I love the fact that they're taking full advantage of this being a three-dimensional environment that they're working with. And they did a great job. It was a small little series of moves, but it was a nice addition that they were including the full range of all the axes they had to work with. And another thing I mentioned previously, but I've got to mention again, is the level of detail they're putting into these episodes are fantastic. They have done a great job of making use of practical effects, and the times they do pull in CGI objects, they're getting close to Uncanny Valley's levels of perfection. At one point, you see a character balancing a knife on their finger, and I'm pretty sure it's a CGI knife, but it is so realistic. I honestly couldn't figure out if it was CGI or if they had a string tied to the top of the knife and you just couldn't see the string. Whichever way they went with it, which I'm pretty sure it's CGI, it's just they're pulling out all the stops for this. The production cost of The Mandalorian, honestly, it must be through the roof for how much effort they're putting into this stuff. And it pays off. It looks great. So visually, this series is just being amazing. One other thing that I really liked is that there is a hilarious moment with Theo where it looks like he's trying to use the Force, and then something unexpected happens, and he looks at his own hand like, the crap? That wasn't what I was trying to do. And then after a second, we see that he wasn't the one who did it, that Avery did something. But the look Theo was giving his own hand was just hilarious, and I loved it. One of the other things that I liked is that this episode, it continued to showcase a new weapon or device. I think. And let me explain this, that I think what they did is they showcased a lasso weapon. And they definitely showed it off, 3 or 4 times throughout the episode. So it leads me to think that this was the episode of the week. But we've already seen the lasso. We saw it over in episode 1. So I think it was supposed to be the weapon of the week for this episode. So I'm going to count it, which means so far, in episode 1, we saw the flamethrower. Episode 2, we saw some vaporizing bullets. Episode 3, we saw whistling birds. Episode 4, we saw exploding hockey pucks. Episode 5, we saw these flash charges, and now we got the lasso. So I think that we are 2 episodes away now from getting to see Avery use all of his weapons to take on someone. Let's say the Bounty Hunter Guild. I don't know. Or I guess it would be more logical for it to be the incels. Or imcels, excuse me, the imcels. That they'll make a comeback at Avery or something in episode 7, and then episode 8, he'll do his big throwdown with them, and we'll get to see all these weapons. Maybe probably 7, maybe even 8 weapons as he just goes through, and we get to see how cool he's being. And I'm looking forward to it. They have done a great job building up Avery's ability throughout these 6 episodes so far, and I'm very much looking forward to the climax of the season. And I really hope we get that, because if we don't, I think it's going to be a bit of a wasted opportunity. That they've done such a good job building it up, to not follow through on it, it would be a bit of a waste. How I feel about the episode overall. I had a hard time giving a ranking to this episode. It was a good episode. It didn't have a Star Wars feel to it. It was very much your standard heist episode. There was no twist you couldn't see coming from a mile away. But at the same time, of all the episodes we've watched so far, maybe the episode with the villagers was a little less Star Warsy feeling, except I had the AT-AT. I really feel like this was at least Star Wars episode feeling, but I don't really care. They are doing a good job giving The Mandalorian a Mandalorian episode feeling. I think at the beginning they really needed to make this feel Star Warsy so that all the fans of Star Wars didn't cry foul whenever it didn't feel very Star Warsy. And I think that slowly they're going to be able to introduce that, this doesn't need to feel Star Warsy. And the reason it doesn't need to feel Star Warsy is because Star Wars, the cinematic universe, one of our fellow friends, Anti-Trekker, he's mentioned that Star Wars is the story of the Skywalkers. And so he doesn't like it has a nice galaxy far, far away feeling. But all the games and comics and books and stuff that don't focus on the Skywalkers, he doesn't feel like they're very Star Warsies. And I half agree with him. I think that Star Wars is the story, not necessarily about the Skywalkers, at least not anymore. It's the story of the Jedi and the struggle between dark and goodness, that the Force is not this entity that exists between life and destruction, but the light side of the Force, it is honorable and virtuous emotions. It's seeking peaceful solutions. It's protecting those who can't protect themselves. On the dark side, anger, fear, negative emotions. It is trying to pervert the natural order of things. I think there's a reason that Darth Plagueis, one of his ultimate acts was being able to cheat death. cheating death is the ultimate way of going against the natural order of the universe. And I think that's why it perfectly epitomizes the dark side. It's the pinnacle of dark side ability to cheat death. And so I feel like The Mandalorian, it doesn't feel Star Warsy because it's not about the Jedi. But I am enjoying the fact that it isn't about the Jedi. I'm enjoying the fact that we have this story about just the background characters, as it were, to Star Wars. All the people who exist just doing their thing that don't have these amazing abilities the way the Skywalkers do, the way that Palpatine does, or Snoke did, I guess. Rey, all of them. That is the story of Star Wars. It's the story of the Jedi, and the fact that we're looking at kind of the antithesis to the Jedi, the most plain people. Okay, a Mandalorian isn't the most plain people, but we're looking at their stories, the plain people, and I'm enjoying that. I think that this is a really fun thing, a really interesting look into the Star Wars universe. So while it isn't what I would call a true Star Wars story, because a Star Wars story does need to focus on that struggle between light and dark, the fact that every person who exists in the darkness has that spark of light with them, and everyone who exists in the light has the threat of darkness overtaking them, the classic yin-yang symbol. That's the story of Star Wars. And just to step back from that for a moment, I'm really enjoying it. So this episode, good heist episode, fun to watch. It's not something I would call ground shaking. It didn't introduce any groundbreaking or amazing piece of new revelation about Avery. It was a fun filler episode. And those are fun. Some of my favorite episodes of Star Trek have been the episodes where nothing happened. It was just a fun, nonsensical episode. And so this episode, I'd give it a 7. Wasn't bad. Wasn't going to be the one that you write home about. But at the same time, it's going to be one that you're able to watch. When it comes up, you're going to enjoy seeing it again. So that is my review for The Mandalorian this week. Guys, until next time, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. May the Lord lift up his countenance upon you and give you peace. Amen.